Click, click. That was my gavel. Aloha, Makakilo. Good morning. This is the September 5th, 2024 Land Use Commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting, which is physically being held at the Lelo Papa a Kamehameha State Office Tower, located at 235 South Baratania Street, room 406, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. And this meeting is open to the public. Court reporting transcriptions are being done from the Zoom recording of this meeting. For all meeting participants, I'd like to stress the importance of speaking slowly, clearly, and directly into your microphone. And before speaking, please state your name and identify yourself for the record. And please do this each time you speak. So this is a hybrid meeting, and please be aware that all meeting participants are being recorded on the digital record of the Zoom meeting, which will be posted to YouTube and used for court reporting purposes. Your continued participation is your implied consent to be part of the public record of this event. If you do not wish to be part of the public record, you should exit the meeting now. Also, please note, due to matters entirely outside of our control, occasional disruptions of connectivity may occur for one or more members of the meeting at any given time. If such disruptions occur, please be patient, and we try to restore the audiovisual signals to effectively conduct this business. Now, let me note for everyone that we're aware, and I'll be speaking to this in a minute, of construction activity on the office building where the meeting is being held. So this might be particularly of concern today that we might be interrupted. Please note that the Q&A feature on Zoom will only be monitored for signing up for public testimony. All other communications will not be will not be addressed or part of the meeting record. Communications can be emailed to our office at dbedt.luc.web@hawaii.gov. I also share with participants that we'll take breaks from time to time, nominally 5 minutes every hour, and if necessary, we'll take a lunch break. My name is Dan Giovanni, and I have the pleasure to serve as LUC Chair. We currently have 9 seated commissioners. Along with me, attending today's meetings are Commissioner Yamane from Kauai, Commissioner Kahele, and Commissioner Lee, and Commissioner Kamakea Ohelo from the island of Oʻahu, Commissioner Carr Smith from Hawaii Island, and Commissioner Miyasato from Hawaii Island. Commissioner Hayashida is recused, and Commissioner U'u from Maui Island is due to arrive shortly if he hasn't already. Please confirm if he's there or not. I cannot tell.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Wong.
Commissioner Hayashida is here in our office on Zoom.
Wait a minute, I'm confused. Commissioner Hayashida is witnessing, but he's recused from the meeting?
Hayashida, just from the agenda item on the Quarry.
Okay, so you're going to recuse yourself from the Quarry portion agenda item, but the other portions you'd like to participate. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us today. And Commissioner U'u is still not in attendance. Also in attendance are LUC Executive Officer Daniel Orendanker, LUC Chief Planner Scott Derrickson, LUC Coordinator Arnold Wong, and LUC Attorney General Miranda Steed. Court reporting transcriptions are being done from this Zoom recording. So, commissioners, I've been advised of a artifact of the Sunshine Law, and I'm going to ask our Attorney General to explain it to us. Since this is a hybrid meeting, my understanding is that all commissioners need to acknowledge whether or not there are any adults in the room with you if you are attending this meeting via Zoom. Ms. Steed, could you explain that requirement, please?
Yeah. This is Deputy Attorney General Miranda Steed. Sunshine Law requires that during hybrid meetings such as this, anyone appearing remotely on Zoom just needs to identify if there's anyone else in the room with them. And if there's any other adults in the room, that's fine. They just need to be identified so that it's in the record that that person was technically present because you're on Zoom.
So is that for the commissioners only or for everyone?
Commissioners only.
Thank you very much. So I will poll the commissioners one at a time just to ask if there's any adults in your room, and if so, they have to be named who they are. Is that correct, Ms. Steed?
Yeah, just identified who they are.
Okay, so Commissioner Yamani, any adults in the room with you?
Just myself, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Kahele, any adults in the room with you?
Oh, just me.
Commissioners Lee is not in a separate room. He's in the main LUC room. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Commissioner Kamakea Ohelo, anybody in the room with you?
Just me, Chair. Mahalo.
Thank you. Commissioner Carr-Smith, anybody in the room with you?
Just my adult dog, Izzy.
Izzy, welcome, Izzy. Glad to see you. Commissioner Miyasato, where are you located? I've lost track.
I'm here, just myself.
Okay, great. And let me acknowledge that Commissioner Giovanni, I am by myself. Commissioner Hayashida is in the conference room with us. Is that correct?
Correct, Chair.
Very good. Thank you. So staff has informed me that the IT department, Information Technology Department, will be conducting network wiring today at the State Office Tower, which may cause interruptions. I'm therefore recommending that we reprioritize agenda item 4 to be heard first on the agenda for today's meeting, and then we'll follow by the remaining items in the order listed on the agenda. Ms. Steed, do I need a motion for this reordering of the agenda, or can I, as chair, ask for it whether or not we have any opposition to it by the parties?
You as chair have the power to reorder the agenda.
Okay, so I'm going to reorganize the agenda to put the Grace Pacific LLC item next. So commissioners, does anybody have any opposition to this move? If so, let me know. Okay. Parties, I will like you to introduce yourself, and when you introduce yourself, please let me know if you have any objections to the reordering of this item. So this would be SP 73-147, Grace Pacific LLC, formerly Pacific Concrete and Rock Company, Limited, Makakilo Quarry, Oʻahu. Today is the adoption of the draft Land Use Commission findings of fact, conclusions of law, and decision and order for application to modify SP 73-147. So I'm asking the parties to please identify themselves for the record and whether or not you're prepared to move forward with this item at this time. Starting with the petitioner, Mr. Chip Chase.
Yes, Chair. Cal Chip Chase. Good morning, commissioners. I see in the room Wyeth Matsubara, Scott Komatsu, and Miles Mizokami as well. We have no objection to proceeding with this matter at this time.
Thank you very much. City and County of Honolulu, please identify yourself and whether or not you have any objection to proceed.
Good morning, Commissioners. Patricia Sundow on behalf of the City and County of Honolulu. No objections to proceeding at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, identify yourself and whether you have any objections to proceed.
Good morning, Allison Kato, Deputy Attorney General, and
Katia Balaciano from Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. No objections. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we will proceed with this agenda item at this time. So first, I'd like to go over the reimbursement policy. Good morning, Mr. Chip Chase. Good to see you again via Zoom. Have you reviewed HAR section 1515-45.1 regarding the reimbursement of hearing expenses?
Cal Chip Chase, good to see you too, Chair, over Zoom. I'm joining the commission from Kansas City.
Wow.
I have reviewed the policy and we do agree.
Thank you very much. Now it's time for any disclosures of and conflicts of interest. In accordance with HRS 84-14, commissioners are not allowed to take any official action affecting a business in which they were a member or their family has a financial interest. They must therefore recuse themselves from this matter if there's any benefit, monetary or otherwise, to themselves or members of their family. Also, in accordance with legal ethical standards, commissioners should disclose any relationship, business, social, or otherwise, that they may have with the petitioner or its representatives or any other parties in this proceeding that may give rise to an allegation of bias or impropriety. Do any of the commissioners have any conflicts of interest or disclosures to make at this time? And let me clarify, I think Commissioner Hayashida had indicated previously this is the matter he was intended to recuse himself. Is that correct, Commissioner?
Chair, because he already said he was going to recuse himself, he recused himself from this portion of the meeting.
So he is not on premises for this portion?
He's not in the office or the building, the conference room.
Very well, thank you. Other commissioners, any disclosures or statements of conflict of interest at this time? So, Mr. Wong, I can't see anybody in that room clearly, so just indicate yes or no if anybody raises their hand for me.
Excuse me, Chair, can you go through that again one more time?
So when I ask if any commissioners have any disclosures to make, I can see the ones on Zoom. I cannot see the ones in the room. They're too small. So
it's only Mr. Lee now, Commissioner Lee, and he doesn't have anything to disclose. He didn't raise his hand.
Very good. So we have no, other than Commissioner Hayashida, there's no one, everyone will participate. Is there any indication that Commissioner Oʻahu has showed up?
No, Chair.
Okay, we'll proceed. So let me briefly explain the procedure. First, I will recognize the written public testimony that has been submitted in this matter. Next, I will call for members of the public who wish to provide oral testimony on this matter. After completion of the public testimony portions of the proceedings, the chair would like to ask the parties if they had any comments on the adoption of the order. At the conclusion of the parties' comments and commissioners' questions, the public will again be granted the opportunity to provide public testimony in the same manner set forth previously. Finally, the commission will conduct its deliberations. Reference for the record, please be informed that the relevant records and documents pertaining to this matter can be accessed for review on the LUC website at, and I'm going to say this twice, https://luc.hawaii.gov/SP73-147. That is https://luc.hawaii.gov/SP73-147. We'll now proceed with public testimony. I will recognize the written public testimony submitted in this matter. Mr. Derrickson, has there been any written testimony submitted on this matter?
Yes, Chair. This morning we received written testimony from the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. It is currently posted to our website.
Chair, we also had written testimony from Anatui Asasopo.
But not on, it wasn't on this agenda item, Chair.
So on
Sorry,
this,
Chair, my mistake.
it's okay. So on this agenda item, we've got the one item that was submitted in writing from OPSD. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it has been posted. Thank you. Are there any members of the public who have indicated that they wish to identify on this matter? Mr. Wong.
Chair, there's no one in the conference room nor on Zoom that raised their hand.
So that means we have none. So we now like to proceed with the presentations, and starting with petitioner for your comments with regarding the adoption of the order. Mr. Chip Chase.
Thank you, Chair. Cal Chip Chase. I have not seen and was not aware of OPSD's comments. And so when OPSD or when my turn passes, I'll do my best to pull them up and read them. But I would appreciate an opportunity to comment on them if necessary after OPSD's presentation or discussion. For our part, we don't request any changes to the proposed order by the Land Use Commission staff. I do want to comment on one finding simply to provide clarity for the record. That's finding of fact 8 on page 11 of the draft decision. At the fourth line down, finding of fact 8 references, quote, and the development of a burial treatment plan. When discussing the Department of Planning and Permitting for the City and County of Honolulu's report and recommendation on Grace Pacific's application to amend the Quarry permit. That recommendation to develop a burial treatment plan was not carried forward into the Planning Commission's recommended decision, nor is it carried forward into this draft decision. And that is because in discussions with DPP recognized that that reference was actually technically incorrect. A burial treatment plan is only prepared when EV are discovered as part of an archaeological inventory survey, previously identified burials. None were identified during our archaeological inventory survey. Therefore, if any EV were identified inadvertently during the operation of the quarry, and let me be clear, no one anticipates that. There's no indication that that will occur. But if it did occur, those EV would be addressed in a report that is known as a burial site component of either a data recovery plan or a preservation plan. And that's under HAR 13-300-40F. Those are the SHPD rules governing the inadvertent discovery of EV during construction or other activities. So that reference to the burial site or burial treatment plan was incorrect, and it simply was not carried forward because of that issue. In all other respects, the report and recommendations carried through to the Planning Commission are correct, and carried through to this order are correct as well, including the provisions dealing with Chapter 6E and the protection of historic properties. With that clarification, Chair, I have no further comments, subject to requesting the ability to comment in response to OPSD if necessary.
So if I understand you correctly, Mr. Chip Chase, you're satisfied with the clarification being on the record as opposed to an amendment of the actual order?
Correct, Chair.
Thank you very much. Does that complete your comment?
It does, Chair.
Okay, commissioners have any questions on the comments made by Commissioner Chip Chase, starting with City and County? City and County.
Apologies.
Yeah.
Patricia Sandow for the county, no comments for petitioner. Thank you.
Thank you. OPSD, any comments or questions for the petitioner?
Allison Cato, no comments, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Commissioners, any questions or comments for the petitioner? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Thank you very much. Let's go now to the City and County for comments on the order.
Patricia Sandow for the City and County of Honolulu. I have taken a quick moment here to look at OPSD's proposed revisions, and we have no objection to those, I believe, 2 additions that they would like to make with respect to clarifying their own position that they made on the record at the last hearing, and no further changes from our part. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chip Chase, any questions for the city and county?
Cal Chip Chase, no questions, Chair.
Ms. Kato, any questions for the city and county?
Allison Cato, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions for the city and county? Seeing none, thank you. OPSD, Ms. Kato, your comments, please, on the order.
Thank you. Allison Cato, we submitted just 2 revisions, mainly just to clarify our position, as the county said. And I guess for the benefit of those who have not seen it yet, I can read them out. And there are 2 findings of fact 14 on page 7. And that is the findings of fact that notes our OPSD's filing of their memorandum to approve the petition. And we added after that, but expressed concerns about the proposed changes to final closure plans. OPSD recommended the continuation of previous final closure commitments detailed in finding of fact 40 from the 2008 proceedings, period. And that's just what was in our position, and we just added it to provide a more accurate record of our position. And in findings of fact number 21 on page 8, just the addition of OPSD presented the position expressed in their August 14th, 2024 memorandum. Those are the only 2 changes, and they're just for clarification purposes. No other comments. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your clarifying that. So Commissioner, not Commissioner, but Ms. Chip Chase, any questions for the OPSD?
Cal Chip Chase, and I too appreciate that, Ms. Kato. Thank you for walking me through those changes. No questions.
So you previously, Mr. Chip Chase, stated you wanted to reserve the right to comment on those. Are you satisfied now?
I am, and we have no objection.
Thank you very much. City and county, any questions or comments further on OPSD?
Patricia Sandow, no further comments or questions. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioners, any comments or questions for OPSD? Great, seeing none. At this point, I'd like to give the public an opportunity for a second round of testimony. So Mr. Wong, have any members of the public who wish to provide new additional testimony on this matter, they showed up either in person or in the panel?
Chair, no one in the conference room, and we don't have anyone on Zoom raising their hands at this time.
Okay, great. It's time then we'll proceed directly to deliberations. The commission will now consider the adoption of the order. Commissioners, before you and for your consideration, deliberation and adoption are the proposed findings of fact, conclusions of law, and decisions and order presented by staff as instructed at the meeting on this docket. And I'm now asking if there are any discussions, including the possibility of amending the order to include the revision suggested by OPSD, and whether or not you are satisfied with the clarification made by the petitioner, Chip Chase. So the chair will now entertain discussion and a motion of how to proceed. Commissioners, what is your pleasure?
Chair, this is Commissioner Lee. I would like to ask the petitioners of legal counsel their thoughts on OPSD's testimony.
Go ahead and ask it.
Mr. Chip Chase, have you reviewed and do you have comments on OPSD's testimony today?
Cal Chip Chase, thank you, Commissioner. I have reviewed it and I have no objection to it. It does express in short form. I think we had proposed a slightly longer expression, but it does express in short form OPSD's position, and that's perfectly acceptable to me. I believe that the findings and the conclusions accurately reflect the final closure conditions for the property, and the additions by OPSD do not cause me any concern or in my view, require additional findings or confirmation.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, somebody want to make a motion for the adoption of the order?
Chair, I will make the motion. This is Commissioner Lee. I move that we adopt the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and decision in order for application to modify SP 73-147 SUP number 2007/SUP-6 with the amendments noted by the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Lee. Do I have a second? Any commissioners?
Second.
The motion is seconded by Commissioner Carr-Smith. Commissioner Lee, please, if you wish to add any comment in support of your motion.
No comments, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Carr-Smith, any comment in support of your second?
No comments. Thank you.
Commissioners, anything further that you'd like to express in support of this motion? Seeing none, the chair will support this motion. Mr. Orndenker, will you do the roll call vote for this motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Dan Orndenker, Executive Officer. The motion is to adopt the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and decision in order with the amendments noted by OPSD. Commissioner Lee.
Aye.
Commissioner Carr-Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Hayashida is recused. Commissioner Kahele.
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakeo.
Aye.
Commissioner Miyasato.
Aye.
Commissioner Uu.
He's absent.
Oh, I'm sorry, absent. Still, okay. Commissioner Yamane.
Aye.
Chair Giovanni.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the parties on this docket for your preparation and your contributions. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
So, Mr. Wong, is Commissioner Hayashida nearby? He could rejoin now that we've completed that item.
I'll bring him in now, sir. Chair, Commissioner Hayashida is seated.
Very good. Welcome. Okay, our next order of business is the adoption of minutes from our meeting of August 22, 2024. Mr. Derrickson, has there been any written testimony submitted on the minutes for this August 22, 2024?
No, Chair.
Any members of the public who have signed up to testify on this item?
No one in Zoom or in the conference room, Chair.
Okay, commissioners, are there any corrections or additions to the minutes, draft minutes? And if not, is there a motion to adopt these minutes from August 21, 2024? Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
Chair,
Who's that?
Commissioner Miyasato.
Commissioner Miyasato, you move to adopt the minutes. Thank you. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Commissioner Carr-Smith, thank you. Let's see, Commissioner Miyasato, do you want to comment any further on your motion?
No, Chair.
Okay, how about you, Commissioner Carr-Smith? Okay, Commissioner Kamakilo, hello, you had a comment?
Yes, comment. Mahalo, Chair. I will not be voting in this because I wasn't there present on the 21st and 22nd. So it's mahalo.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Yamane.
just note that I was not there for the 22nd. So I'll still be voting. I was there on the 21st.
Okay,
Commissioner, Chair,
Who's
Commissioner
that?
Hayashida, I will be recusing myself too I wasn't at the meetings.
okay. So, Commissioner Yamane, you were there for one, but not the second. Is that what you said?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
So can he vote on the whole thing, and do we have to take each day one at a time, Mr. Orndaker? Mr. Orndaker, you look frozen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would defer to the Deputy Attorney General on that. We haven't really had that situation before, so.
So, Attorney General Miranda Steed, could you advise us, should we take this vote on one day at a time of the minutes so that those who were present on the respective days could vote?
Yes, that's okay. Just make sure that the votes, the recording of the votes, either adopting or rejecting the minutes, reflect that it was done based on day. So
Okay.
it should be done as multiple votes.
Yeah, I'm gonna do multiple votes, and I'm gonna ask Mr. Orndaker to actually poll the commissioners one by one rather than a group voice vote, just so there's clarity.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I'm going to interpret the motion that is before us to adopt the minutes for both days, but we'll do the vote by one day at a time. So for Mr. Orndaker, will you poll the commissioners for their vote to approve the minutes for August 21st?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is to adopt the minutes for August 21st. I'm sorry, Commissioner Miyasato made the motion and Commissioner Carr-Smith seconded. Commissioner Miyasato.
Aye.
Commissioner Carr-Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Hayashida, are you're recusing yourself from adoption of those minutes, is that correct?
Hayashida, correct.
Commissioner Kahele.
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakea Ohelo, you're also recusing yourself?
He nodded his head, but I haven't heard him, so you have to voice it.
Okay.
Yes, I'm recusing myself, mahalo.
Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu is absent. Commissioner Yamane,
Aye.
Chair Giovanni.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes 5 votes.
Okay, so do we have enough commissioners that could vote on the second day, please?
Are you asking for another motion, Chair? For clarification.
Same motion, but we want to do a roll call vote on August 22nd minutes.
Okay. Commissioner Miyasato.
Aye.
Commissioner Carr Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayashida is recused, Commissioner Kahele,
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakeo Ohelo is recused, Commissioner Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Uu is absent, Commissioner Yamane, recusing yourself from these minutes.
That's correct.
Commissioner Chair Giovanni.
Aye.
Motion passes with 5 votes.
Okay, could you clarify the first day? Was that 6 votes or 5?
4, 5, 6. Yeah, my mistake, Mr. Chair. The first day was 6 votes.
Very good. So both days have been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is a tentative meeting schedule. Mr. Orendecker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On September 11th through 13th, we are going to be at the HCPO at the Hapuna Resort on the Big Island. Currently, September 25th and 26th is open. On October 10th, we will be at the airport to hear the Mahi Solar matter and the RK2 declaratory ruling matter. On October 23rd, we'll be having OPSD present give their presentation. On October 24th, we will, assuming things go well on the 10th, be adopting the order for RK2 Partners and Mahi Solar. On November 6th, we will be on Maui for the A&B Properties Inc. motion. On November 7th, we will be on Oʻahu, but a Zoom meeting for the Mahi Solar adoption of order. I'm sorry, I misstated the prior date. On November 20th, we will again be on Maui for the addition and removal of IAL designation by the County of Maui. On the 21st, we will be hearing Emmanuel Lutheran status report, again on Maui. December is currently open, and that takes us through the end of the year.
Could you restate the first day in November? Mr. Orendecker, you're frozen again.
Chair, I believe he said November 6th on Maui to hear A and B.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Mr. Chair,
Who is that?
Commissioner Yamani. Question for Mr. Orendenker. On the 23rd of October, OPSD, I know there was discussion whether that's going to be Zoom or live. Is that on Oahu or is that what?
That can be done by Zoom. We're actually planning to do that by Zoom.
Thank you.
Chair, this is Arnold Wong.
Mr. Wong.
I just wanted to inform you that Commissioner Uu came online.
Oh, thank you. Welcome, Commissioner Uu. Good to see you.
Aloha, everybody. Sorry for being late.
No
I
worries.
didn't make my final destination, but I'm close enough. Put it that way.
So, Mr. Uu, we've been advised of a new rule. If anybody that participates by Zoom in our meetings, any commissioner has to identify whether or not there are additional adults in the room where you are connecting from. So can you clarify?
I wish there was, but there is none. So my wife left for now. So just to let you know, on my vacation, by the way. Maybe she enjoyed it more than she should, but hey, that's what it's at right now. So
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, so
Chair?
Who's that? Commissioner Carr Smith, please.
Sorry, I had a couple of comments about the calendar items. Was just wondering about, yeah, at the last meeting, we talked about that OPSD meeting and it was scheduled for October 10th. And I requested to be in person, and OPSD asked for it to be in person. And then the next week I saw that it had been changed to October 23rd. Is OPSD aware of the change?
So I have the same question because I cannot attend on the 23rd, and I also preferred an in-person meeting. So I share Commissioner Carsmith's inquiry. So, Mr. Orendenker, what's going on with this change?
Well, I'm sorry, commissioners. I mean, we can adjust that since it's not an action item. We could not get quorum on the 9th. So we moved the RK2 partners and the Mahi Solar matter to the 10th. And that pushed the OPSD presentation to the 20th.
So let me request that the OPSD presentation be an in-person presentation, number one. And number two, please poll the commissioners again, not right now, but independently later, to confirm that you can get a quorum for an in-person meeting at a suitable date in the future.
We will do that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Chair,
Yes, Ms.
can
Commissioner.
we please ask OPSD if they were aware of the change?
Ms. Kato, were you aware of the change from October 10th in-person meeting to October 23 Zoom?
Allison Kato, no, OPSD was not aware, so they would need to check their schedule too.
Okay. Let's confirm with them as well.
Will do, Mr. Chair.
Let me just state that we regularly at our hearings have this schedule presentation, and there's an important word in this agenda item, and that's the word tentative. So we asked the executive officer to present the tentative schedule, and it's very much for purposes like we just went through, where there are issues that can surface, and we recognize those up front ahead of time. So this agenda item is not perfunctory, it's really important. So if any commissioners have issues with the tentative schedule, I encourage you today and in the future meetings to raise them for the benefit of everybody. So thank you.
Chair, this is Commissioner Lee.
Commissioner Lee, go ahead.
I'd like to make a comment. The schedule is made a year in advance. Sometimes we have tentative schedules, and we're all busy. We all try to coordinate our times to make it when we're supposed to, so that we can work efficiently. So, as much as possible, we shouldn't move the schedule too much, because someone cannot attend if there are alternates, such as vice chairs that can run the meeting. So just want to make that comment.
Yeah, very fair, but just so these meeting dates of October 23 and 24, I know that we get surveyed by Ms. Kwan in terms of our availability. I don't see the compilation of those surveys, but I think that most of the movement has been on the dates moving around, not the availability of commissioners moving around. That's my impression.
Yeah, if I can comment, Mr. Chair, this is Dan Ardenker again. What has caused so much turmoil with our calendar and schedule over the past couple of months has been the submission of 3 special permits at various times. And we try and work with the county on when we will be receiving those. But sometimes the Planning Commission takes longer than we expect, and that pushes the schedule around. And the special permits, we don't have much leeway because there's only 45 days before we have to hear them. And I apologize to the commission if these past couple of months have seemed somewhat tumultuous, but that is what's been driving the agenda, is the county's timing on their submissions and our need to get them done in 45 days.
Commissioner Carsmith.
Just a final comment. I just asked the staff to please be mindful and respectful of other departments such as OPSD and keep them informed of what the schedule perhaps is. Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner Carr-Smith. I believe that the discussion may have taken place at I would say a lower level, at the secretarial level with regard to this. And that's why there may be some confusion. So I apologize for that.
Okay, so Mr. Orndenker, following today's meeting, where can the commissioners observe the updated, revised, and most current form of the schedule for the remainder of the year?
It is posted. It's always on the website and it's updated weekly if there are any changes. So I would refer the commissioners to the website and the calendar on the website.
Yeah, so there are going to be changes based on the conversations that we just had relative to October 23. So when will those updates appear?
Well, probably next week sometime. We have to poll all the commissioners and then we have to have a discussion with the OPSD on their availability. So
okay,
we will make those changes as soon as we finalize them.
Okay, can I just ask that you send, you or Ms. Kwan or somebody send an email to all commissioners on when the posted calendar has been updated?
Every time or just this time?
Oh, just this next time. So if it's up, we're at a critical time right here in the remainder of this year, especially with these 3 special permits coming in. So when you update it next week, whether it be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever that day is, please send just a brief email that it's been updated and we can find it. That'd be great.
We will do so, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Chair, this is Commissioner Lee. I apologize, myself and Commissioner Haishio were not clear on the September 25th and 26th. Is that still a tentative at this point?
We don't have anything scheduled for those dates, but once again, we're being buffeted by what's happening at the county and the special permits, so we have not released those days yet. We will make a decision on that in the next week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I will not be available those dates as the chair, for your information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll take that into account.
Thank you. Commissioners, anything further on the meeting schedule? Thank you. Just let me do a time check here. So, Mr. Wong, how much time do you need for your presentation for the next agenda item, which is the Land Use Commission update from the Development Coordinator?
Chair, it'll be only 2 minutes from me, and I don't know how many Q&A.
Okay, so let's proceed with that. The next agenda item is the Development Coordinator update. This has been requested by the Commission. The next, so let me turn that, is that to you, Mr. Wong, or to someone else?
That's to me, Chair, but I just wanted to ask if there's no public testimony in the conference room on this agenda item, and I don't see anyone on Zoom.
Okay, so I was going to get to that next. So there's no, just to confirm, is there any one which, has there been any written, Mr. Derrickson, has been any written testimony on this agenda item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Is there anyone present who wishes to publicly testify on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so now I will turn it over to Mr. Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to thank you and the commissioners for allowing me this opportunity to give you an update on what I've been doing. I'll keep this information at a very high level due to the fact that this body is a quasi-judicial, and any information that may come in the future to you all, the commission, I don't want to exclude any of you guys from being, to an ex-party communication. So, that's why I'm just trying to keep it at a very high level. I'm not saying who I talk to, what company, etc., just in case one of you may be approached because you're a friend that says, hey, I heard Arnold talk to us. And then you said, oh, he's doing this, he's doing this. And then you have to excuse yourself for that type of ex parte communication. So I'm just going to keep it at a very high level, Chair, if you don't mind.
That's fine, but commissioners may have questions, be even a bit more specific than you're intended. So let's just try it and see how it happens.
Yes, Chair. To this date, after reviewing various dockets, I have concluded for various reasons, including issues with financing, water, and others, that, there are problems with some of our dockets. An example of this is a project that we converted from ag to urban in the 1980s, that nothing has been done, and there has been ownership changes. The new owners, I'm not going to say what island, looked at the cost of the infrastructure alone recently, and I was blown away, to tell you the truth. The infrastructure at the time of the change of the land use designation was approximately 6 million. Now it's 60 million, just on infrastructure alone, not vertical construction. And that to me just blew me away. And this was from 1980s to now. So currently they are looking for financing and developers because, no one has 60 million in their wallet to say, here's 60 million, no problem, let's do it now. I mean, it's just, to me, it's hard to imagine 60 million for any of us. So I have assisted in giving them some leads and government leads. For example, HHFDC, that has some infrastructure grants and loans. Also, recently, OPSD received a grant from the federal government that they're working on for infrastructure. We're awaiting the RFP or whatever comes out from them, but I'm going to give them, say, hey, contact OPSD also for this. But I'm holding until the RFP comes out, then I'll send them the information to OPSD, or send them the information from OPSD, and they can contact OPSD directly if that RFP fits their needs. Also, I've been in communication with the owners and developers and attorneys on several projects that have started to get back on track. This was by facilitating with owners and various organizations and state agencies, such as DOT, HHFDC, HAIMA, etc., to address each concern, starting building housing for the people of Hawaii. For example, one project was trying to talk to HAIMA, which is making that signals, the sirens, and somehow that communication got broken and they were just awaiting, so they couldn't start construction because they needed a plot of land to put that signal, that siren. So I got in touch with HAIMA and they started to talk again. And for your information, HAIMA went to the site, I'm going to say on a neighbor island, and they finally got a piece of land for the siren. So that project is now back on track. And hopefully, well, I shouldn't say hopefully, but they are going to break ground soon. So that's the good part, grubbing, etc. Also, for your information, several projects needed permits to start construction, subdivision, etc. And in the near future, they're in that process, going through the various councils and or planning departments. So it is in that stage, which is good. So they're in that track, and so we'll see how it goes from there. But I'm keeping my eyes out on them. I'm contacting them every quarter. So I just wanted to give you an estimation that I've touched at least, or we, the Land Use Commission, has touched approximately 19,000 units to date. And that's it, Chair.
So could you further clarify the last statement, 19,000 units? How should we interpret what you say?
So let me put it this way. Some of the dockets have been very vague in sense of you're going to build this units. It's not saying multifamily, single family, affordable. It's just saying units, period. So I cannot tell you like they're going to build 10 affordable, 100 multifamily, etc. So I'm just using the word units just because units could be multifamily and or single family, because older dockets are very vague in this sense. The other thing too is some of them had a statement to say, we will build affordable up to the city and county standards at that time. Or the county, sorry, not only city and county, but county. So the affordable at that time could have been 10%. Well, let's say the affordable units percentage now could be 20%. So, you know, it changes the numbers. So I cannot really say how much units are affordable. So that's why I'm just using 19,000 in general.
So of those 19,000, how many projects are you talking about that you've looked at? I mean, how many projects
I won't say
19,000? Is it one project or is it 100 projects or what?
it's around 25 dockets, Chair.
So 25 dockets would be an average of around 600 or 700 units per docket on average, roughly, right?
That's on average, but some of them could be only 50 units, while another could be 600 units.
Or even more.
It's a really, because some of them are only 15 acres, while others could be thousands of acres. That's the problem we have with some of our older dockets.
So without divulging any information that would be of concern to you, for the project that you looked at where the infrastructure costs went to over 60 million, how many units were involved there?
I'm going to say approximately 1,000. And they're changing that number again because of the cost factor. And they are also looking at probably phasing that just because of the costs again.
Okay. Commissioners, comments and questions for Mr. Wong?
Chair, Commissioner Lee, I have some questions for Mr.
Please
Wong.
proceed. Yeah, please proceed.
Okay, I'll just call you Arnold since I know you for so long. When you started doing this updating of the status and everything, or basically in your role, are you just cut loose to do what you think is right, or has the executive officer given you a plan that he's directing you to pursue?
The only plan he gave me, to tell you the truth, Commissioner, is let's look at Maui first, just because of the need of the wildfire. So I started on Maui, but also due to Commissioner Carr Smith, I said, we have to look at the other islands. So I started to look at all the islands. And that's this including Lanai and Molokai. Not Niihau, of course, but I mean, all of the islands that we did do a DBA on. So I'm touching the entire state, not only just one island or one county.
Okay, previously we received a status report listing spreadsheet. Have you gone through all of them by this time?
Which status report are you talking about? Commissioner, sorry.
Yeah, Ariana, you can call me Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Ariana gave us a list of the status reports and the current, because we had mentioned that there were many projects and petitioners who were behind by 5, 10, 20, 30 years. And that it should be part of our role to be pursuing that and not just waiting and complaining about it 5 years and 10 years later. We should be actively, if we want to be part of the solution, to actively contact these people and ask them, hey, your status report is 10 years late. What's the problem? You know, and we were even told that there is no such list. And then the next day we got a list. And so you know, do you know which list I'm talking about?
Yes, now I do. Thank you, Brian, or Commissioner. I have started that, but I'm using that as also to generate my own list, just because we're supposed to be a separate entity within land use. So I use that as a add-on to help me. So, and also sometimes I find stuff that we don't have an annual report for, and I tell them, hey, tell them as the land use commissioner planners, we need an annual report from these guys. Can you follow up? And which they do. And that's why we've been getting more of a list.
Okay, so when you mentioned the 19,000 units, that's based on sort of an estimate of the number of people you've contacted and what they're responsible for. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I think, we've heard in the community for many years from past commissioners and even from staff that LUC is not the problem because there's been 40,000 units that have been approved. And now we're hearing that some of them are, like they say in oil discovery, there's possible, probable, and I forget the third one, but there's different stages, right? Some are likely, some are less likely, and some are not probable. So, I think we should be careful in throwing out statistics such as that there's tons of projects, we need so much water, we need all this, when a lot of these are probably never going to happen. So just a comment. And then I think we should see some kind of a plan, either from yourself or the executive officer, that shows what you're pursuing. Like you said, we're going to try Maui first. I think the commissioner should see what your plan of attack is. And you don't have to be super specific, but we'd like to see some kind of a strategy from your department.
So, Commissioner, I'm going to tell you the plan of attack is hitting each island, but I go from 1960s to present. So the problem is, like, for example, the 1960s, it's only one page of finding a fact, conclusion of law, decision, order. To get what they promised or what they stated, I have to go back to the old dockets, and I have to wear a mask, because that's what it really shows. And those are, brown paper, onion paper, pretty much. For the younger people, onion paper is what they used to type on. It's not computerized. So it's very time consuming going through boxes of paper. In terms of, that is the plan of attack, is 1960 to now. I'm only in the 1970s, 1980s. But sometimes, let's say I get that stuff from Ariana, that list. And I says, hey, maybe I should look at this one. Somehow it clicks. I don't know what clicks from my previous job that I start looking into. It says, hey, I'm going to jump into, instead of 1960, I'm going to a 1990 project. Then I'll go back to the 1960s. So that's what I do sometimes. But the plan of attack is 1960 to now. That's what the plan of the attack is.
Well, I guess I was more thinking of, are you going to look for a status report, or are you just going to go through each petitioner case one at a time, basically?
I'm going through each one at a time, just because I don't want to let anything fall through the cracks. And so that's why it's taking longer than expected.
Sometimes maybe I'm not gonna, you're the one that knows what your job is, but sometimes it's good to get a general quick survey of all the projects, and then you can maybe even identify certain ones that you can have the greatest impact on. So just a suggestion, and then to hit those that can be more productive first. No sense going on something that's so old that probably everyone's dead already, right? When there's certain people that, like on the status reports, it was mentioned that there were projects that the reason they're not updated is because we can't find these people, But I looked at the list, and there were several I saw that I already know myself, and I'm not that in touch with things, that these projects are no longer owned by those people anymore. So, I think that you know, you got to do what you got to do, but try and see what is the most productive use of your time. And if you can give us, you know, quarterly updates, as we had mentioned before, you know, because plans always change, right? You start off with a plan and then you adapt. So, you know, it would be good for us to get updates on what your strategy and results are, and if anything has changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I just wanted to reconfirm what you just said, that ownership has changed. So just to, let's say, a 1980s project, for example, it was owned by you at the first, and then may have changed to Commissioner U'u, then to Commissioner Miyasato, then Commissioner. So chasing that down is the most time consuming to find, you know, that line of thought.
Yeah, well, I'll give you just one example. Like I saw many projects by Alexander and Baldwin where they were behind 5, 10, 15 years, according to the spreadsheet. And some of them I already know that that's been sold already, you know. And so those guys, if the big guys that are easy to identify are behind, I mean, to me, that's the more productive way of going after things. Like, oh, you know, A and B, Gentry, whoever, you know, these guys, they're behind. I should see what the problem is, because they still exist to this day, and you know, something's going on. And if I can help them, I might be able to help 2,000 units move ahead. You know, rather than going back to something from 1965 where you've not heard anything, and then see if I can dig up some, you know, archives and stuff. So just a suggestion.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioner. And I also want to say that for your information, A and B doesn't have a land division anymore. So I already contacted them, and I understand where you're coming from also. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, this is Dan Ardenker again. If I may comment on Arnold's presentation.
Please do, but I see other commissioners have questions coming as well. So go ahead, Mr. Arndecker.
To be a little bit more articulate about what Arnold is trying to say, Arnold and I work together on almost a daily basis. He comes forward with projects that he has dug up and we look at. If the project it has been sold, I can request that he pursue the project with the new owners to find out what their intentions are. If the project simply has not given us a status report, that's a different thing. I mean, that goes to Martina and Scott to contact them and update their status reports. I agree with Commissioner Lee that a lot of these projects are just dead. And I have urged Arnold and have directed him towards projects which we believe could still come to fruition, and leave the other projects alone for now. The 19,000 number that Arnold came up with was based on the number of projects that he has communicated with the owners on, and their assertion that they still intended to develop the projects. In many cases, Arnold has directed them towards solutions that will result, maybe not tomorrow, but in the next 5 to 10 years, depending on how quickly they move in project development. The original, and Commissioner Lee, I think that what you're referring to is way back when we had represented that there was 45,000 to 65,000 units out there that had not been built. We had a list of projects that we had no information on with regard to whether or not they had actually begun construction. And that was where the 45,000 to 65,000 number came from. That list has been given to Arnold, and he has been bulldozing his way through it to try and determine whether or not these projects are viable. We're loath to take projects that we know are dead, and definitely not going to happen, and revert them. We don't think that that is productive. But As long as there is someone that we can contact, we make efforts, or Arnold makes efforts to move projects along. It's an iterative process. There have been a couple of projects that I've worked on with Arnold where we thought we had something that was going to work and it hit a brick wall. And Pulelehua is an example of that. It moves on a daily basis, and I am in close contact with Arnold with regard to how these things work, which projects he should be focused on, and what he should be attempting to accomplish.
Commissioner Lee, thank you, Executive Officer. That's what I wanted to hear, because I didn't know that you were communicating and giving him some direction. So that's good information.
Arnold is usually my first meeting in the morning. So,
oh, how unfortunate for yours.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So it's like drilling for oil, and yeah. So it's like you have possible, probable, and proven. And sometimes the possible and probable depends on the price of oil, right? So OPSD and the county planning departments, they do the same thing as far as updating projects. And so you can work with those guys too, and they're constantly in contact and updating their list as well. So I would encourage you to keep good contact with them.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. We will make that attempt. And we do, actually. That is one of the things that I'm constantly telling Arnold, is that he needs to talk to other organizations. So I appreciate that.
So, Mr. Orndenker and Mr. Wong, am I to interpret that based on the work you've done to date, that the nominal 45 to 65,000 reference that was being tossed around 6 months to a year ago is now 19,000?
No, that's not correct, Mr. Chair. As Arnold has said several times, this is a big job, and a lot of it is just on paper. We still believe that number is somewhere in that area, somewhere between 45 to 65,000. It's just taking us time to get through it all. We would also note that a couple of the projects that Arnold has worked on, the numbers on how many units they were going to build actually increased, because that's how they cover things like increased infrastructure costs and the like. This is not going to be something that we can attack all 65,000 or 45,000 units in a quarter. This is going to be a slow process because these projects are complicated, or their solutions are complicated. But one of the things that I don't want Arnold to do is lose focus on projects that could be shovel ready in the next 5 years. So we're focusing on those. The rest of them we'll get to.
So thanks for that clarification. But if you evaluate a project and you come to the conclusion, in your own words, it's dead, it's not going forward, how do you adjust the total number to account for those units that were in dead projects?
Well, I mean, dead is a relative. Sometimes it's actually a timing situation. Okay. And so when I say they're dead is, I mean, right now there's no way that these projects are going to move. So that's why we don't come to the commission asking for them to be reverted. And I direct Arnold away from those projects for now until the situation changes.
So they're more in purgatory than dead.
Yeah, I think that would be a more accurate statement.
Thank you. Mr. Miyasato, I thought I saw your hand up. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Arnold, for all your efforts. And thank you for your report. Given what's been said by the director and yourself, given the governor's emergency proclamation on housing, and through your efforts, would you be able to say that there's anything that would be on the ground in the next 5 years from what you've researched so far?
Chair, Commissioner, yes, I do agree. There will be some stuff that will be shovel ready within 5 years, several projects.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions, comments?
Chair, Commissioner Lee, I would just one final comment. You know, earlier we heard that you were going to look at the 60s projects first, but I think I agree with Mr. Odenker that we should look at the low-hanging fruit first, you know, and try and get the fastest bang for the buck as possible. But I know this is an adaptive process, so I'm sure you guys will develop some good strategies. Thank you.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Yamane, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, so just a comment on the presentation. I know what my expectation was on this presentation when we were presented that Excel list. I thought that was great. So I thought the update was going to be based on that list and any movement and status change on that list. Because I agree, I think that list was based on Mr. Orendenker's and Mr. Wong's collaborating, which was a good list. I think they know best which one is the best chance for movement. So that was my expectation on update, is re-showing the list and showing if status has changed, any movement has changed. So just comment for future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I would concur with that. It'd be nice if we could have a master list that when we got the quarterly updates, you submitted an updated version of that list, whatever form you might, with comments on a project by project basis. That would be very informative. Appreciate that.
We will try and do that, Mr. Chair. I would caution, however, though, that sometimes, I mean, you know, this is kind of like knocking pins now. You know, you throw the ball, you knock the pin down, and then it's up to the developers, the petitioners, to take the next steps. So sure. Sometimes we don't know whether they're actually in gear or not. We try and swing back to them every month or so to find out what they're doing, but there may not be much change on a quarterly basis. Where on a yearly basis, I think you'll see larger changes.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes without saying, it's not even explicitly the job of the Land Use Commission to be doing this work. This work is being done because it's considered to be helpful and will help move the whole ball forward, the proverbial ball forward, to get housing done. So if we can find opportunities to directly address obstacles in these projects by the work of Mr. Wong, that is wonderful. So it's worth the effort to try to knock down those obstacles. But so yeah, but it's a fluid situation. You need to be careful what you publish and put the right caveats on it. I want to go back to the first comment.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Carr Smith is trying to.
I see that. That's where I'm going next. Commissioner Carr Smith.
Oh, thank you. I think we spoke about it in the past, and I just wanted to bring it up again as a potential practice we could put into place, and that is putting an item on the agenda entitled something like administrative matters updates, and then it can always be there, and if there's something to share, it can be shared, and if there's nothing, then there's nothing. But I think it might prompt us always being able to be updated about various things, since we've been asking more and more for more transparency. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Commissioner. We will work with the AGs to come up with some language so that we have something that we can work with.
Okay, I want to revert back to Mr. Wong's, one of his opening statements, because it's a real pet peeve of mine personally. And it has to do with infrastructure costs on these projects, which have the indication on that one project that he was referring to, and I don't know which project it was, is that the original estimate had exploded to a much bigger number, I think tenfold. This is a story that I've heard over and over about why these affordable housing projects don't pencil out, because you got to put, the developer has to do the infrastructure development first, and they have to do it largely on their own account, financial account. I just want to make a general comment. I think it's a real problem for Hawaii to, on the one hand, push so hard for affordable housing, as we all know we need it, and at the same time put the burden of the infrastructure cost on the developer, which translates to a per unit cost, which makes the housing in some cases unaffordable to begin with, and it therefore stalls the whole project. So I think it's a much bigger problem than the LUC can solve, but burdening developers with infrastructure costs on any green site project, I think, is a real impediment to solving the affordable housing crisis on this state. Just want to put that on the record. As a person,
Question. Chair.
Who's raising?
Commissioner U'u.
Commissioner U'u, please.
I'd just like to add what was said earlier by you, Chair. That is part of the problem. Definitely, the infrastructure cost has risen up. I think you're right, where the burden's been put on the developers. But I believe other facets that we can help to bridge that gap of funds that's needed is the process. If you expedite the process in its entirety, you can minimize the costs. I think the next one that I think was missing was sometimes the community is not ready for the project. So at times leaving it there when the community feels it's time or it's needed now, along with appropriate funding or infrastructure gets closer to make it affordable, I think it's key too. So there's many facets that goes into that. I think there's a lot of it, but you're right though. The key is the gap, the bridge gap of infrastructure. But again, sometimes it's the community. And again, we can shorten the process. That will take away some of that. The entitlement process goes into that per unit cost also, whether it be the state, county interventions, EA, EIS, all the acronyms you want to put on there, it all adds to a higher number. So yes, we're in a battle. So I just wanted to add to it.
Yeah, I hear you. Commissioners, anything further before we take a break? Mr. Orendenker, did you have your hand up? Mr. Orendenker? No? Yes? I can't tell what you're doing.
I'm sorry, I'm muted. No, Mr. Chair, I wasn't going to say anything more than to agree with Commissioner U'u with regard to the community not being ready. Sometimes that is the biggest problem. And that's why we don't bring projects forward for this commission to revert, because they may be perfectly good projects now, but they weren't then, and now is the time to move them forward. And I agree with Commissioner U'u on that.
Okay.
Chair, Commissioner Lee.
Commissioner Lee, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't let this end without also pointing out that according to UHERO and I think a Harvard study, that government regulations also play a huge part in the cost of housing. And so I think the list they came up with before was that Hawaii was the highest amount of regulation costs in the entire world. I mean, not even close. So I just wanted to make sure that that was not missed as an example, and we also could be part of the problem.
I'd like to add to that, Chair.
Well, I think Katia has a clarification, Chair.
Wait, where are we? Somebody spoke up. So,
yes, this is Katia from OPSD. I don't know if there'll be an opportunity for a clarification when the commissioners finish communicating about this matter.
So Katia, let me swear you in, please, for the record. State your name and affiliation, and then I'll swear you in.
Thank you. Katia Balaciano, Planning Program Administrator with OPSD.
And your testimony today will be the truth?
Yes, it is.
Okay, please proceed with what you want to say.
Thank you.
put on the
Just a
record.
quick clarification. Mr. Wong spoke about funds that the OPSD had for infrastructure purposes. For those who may be listening out there, OPSD did work with the governor's Office of Housing, and we secured a grant from the Federal Housing and Urban Development Administration, HUD, and did secure $6.6 million under the theme of infrastructure unlocks housing. We are not in a position to give out grants or loans through an RFP process for infrastructure. However, we do plan on looking into the creation of an infrastructure bank that would be able to grant and loan funds for infrastructure statewide. So I just wanted to make that clarification such that people wouldn't quickly be calling us and asking for money. And I would be happy to provide the LUC with some additional information regarding that pro-housing grant that we received and what it will be funding. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, so probably the best way to proceed is we're going to be asking Mr. Wong and Mr. Orendecker for a quarterly update on this topic. So why don't you prepare to give us a quarterly update on OPSD's activities that are relevant to this topic, just
Sure,
informally?
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, I apologize. I thought I was mistakenly believing Mr. Wong that he only needed 3 minutes and he needed 40. So I apologize to the commissioners for not taking a break. But Commissioner Carr-Smith.
I'm sorry, I just, something that the executive officer said, I just need a little clarification on, when we were talking about communities not being ready for projects, and then you subsequently said that that's why you don't always bring a project to us.
Or reversion, yeah.
So how are you making that decision about whether you bring something before us or not?
No, it's not bring projects before you. It's that existing projects that haven't moved, we don't actively try and revert them. We're not trying to move land back into agriculture. We're trying to keep the inventory of urban lands available for development as much as possible. I mean, so it's not that we're not bringing projects to you. It's just that we're not trying to revert projects, because it is our belief that with a little help and a change in timing, those projects will eventually come to fruition. I mean, theoretically, a lot of these projects haven't moved in 10 years. We have the ability to revert them, but we're not actively trying to do that. We would rather give the developers the time to work them out. So it's not new projects, it's old projects that we're trying to stimulate.
Yeah, that was my interpretation of what was meant. Thanks for clarifying. Okay, commissioners, if nothing further, I'm going to take a break. Okay, it's now 9:20 something, 28. Let's come back at 9:40. We're recessed until 9:40. Okay, back on the record. Is everybody in attendance? Can you confirm for me? Mr. Commissioner Wu, are you available?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Ready and willing.
Okay. Ms. Steed, are you available and back on and present?
I am present.
Very good. So we're still on the agenda item regarding the update from the commissioner staff. Before we go to a final round of opportunity for second round of public testimony, the chair wants to make an observation, a comment, and this is, and everybody knows I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not offering any legal interpretation, but so my comments should be taken in the vein of observation. And it has to do with commentary, not only among those present, but among the greater Hawaii community about whether or not development is sufficiently hindered because of all of the regulation and the cost that might be associated with the regulation to do project work in Hawaii. And my concern is that in many regards, the LUC is, these are my words, a safety net to assure that important matters, and I'll be explicit about what I think they are accounted for in our decision-making and our deliberations. You know, we are, as was shared with us in our training sessions a month ago, there are numerous aspects that we have to take into account in any petition that comes before us, but 4 of them that jump out to me are, and whether you agree with them or not, they have to be accounted for. And one is the environmental review that goes with HRS 343 for projects, which can be onerous and require a full-blown environmental impact statement. There's the public trust doctrine, in which we've been educated on, that we have to account for. There are cultural assessments, sometimes referred to globally as the Kapaa analysis, that we have to take into account. And then we have to assure, for many projects these days, that there are available water resources to proceed. So not giving these matters the attention that are required, and when I say required, they're either, in my view, again, I'm not an attorney, but they seem to be mandated by either the Hawaii Constitution or statutes that have been passed by the ledge and signed by previous governors or the current governor. What that means to me is that we have to take those matters with diligence and seriously. And if we don't, and we make decision-making that is more expeditious and we ignore the details of what's required there, my view is we're running the risk of our decisions being appealed, almost certainly, and there being incumbent delays that go way beyond what was originally intended. So it's a tough call for us, but the call that I think that we have to make, and this is just my opinion, we got to be cautious. We got to act prudently, and we got to take these matters of 343, the public trust doctrine, Kapaa analysis, and availability of water in due consideration on every project that comes before us. And if we don't, these projects can be backfired because they're going to be headed to the Supreme Court. It's just my view. I invite other comments by commissioners on this topic if you want to make them now. If not, we'll proceed to the order. Anybody want to comment? Okay. Second round of public testimony. Mr. Wong, is anybody in attendance there indicated they want to do additional testimony on the matters that were discussed in the previous hour?
Not on my agenda item, Chair.
Very well. So that will close that agenda item for now, and we'll move to the next order of business, which is a presentation and action on a memorandum of understanding with the State of Hawaii Commission on Water Resource Management. So an MOU has been drafted that is intended to encourage the exchange of information, sharing of information, and clarification between the agencies, and delegate to the chairperson. This is what's been drafted and proposed, to finalize an MOU to make to make an MOU that would come for this commission for its consideration. So, Mr. Orendanker, can you give us a little more background before I even open this up for public testimony on this agenda item? What's going on?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Dan Ardenker. Yeah, if you recall, at our presentation on 7/10/24 by the Commission on Water Resource Management, they suggested that we enter into a memorandum of understanding to formalize the process by which we would communicate with them on petitions that come before us. What happened after that? I mean, after this commission sort of gave their tacit okay to preparation of that, is that the Commission on Water Resource Management drafted a document that was basically based off of the Public Utilities Commission document. I received it. I made a couple of changes because there were some typographical errors and things like that, but I did not make any real substantive changes. Sent it back to them, and they told me that they wanted to bring it before their own commission before they sent it back to us again. A few weeks ago, they held a hearing on this, which I attended, and sort of to make a long story short, their commission suggested some changes, and they authorized the chair of the Commission on Water Resource Management to finalize an agreement with the Land Use Commission. And that's kind of where we are. The Land Use Commission staff has not put any real substantive thought into this document. It is basically coming from Commission on Water Resource Management. We wanted to discuss it with the commission before we took it any further and see if the commission wanted to authorize the chair to continue with negotiations.
So I want to back up a half a step, at least. So my recall at the end of the presentation by Seaworm to the LUC Commission in July was that, we thanked them for their presentation, et cetera. And we said, we'd like to find a way to be sure that when a petition comes before the LUC for which there are perceived or real water issues, that they were given an opportunity to proactively review and provide information to LUC as part of its deliberations and considerations. I don't ever remember the word MOU being mentioned in that. It was more like, can we come up with a way that we could work together to make sure that we get your input when we need it, right?
Actually, I went back and looked at the transcripts, and in several places, Ms. Ross suggested an MOU.
Ms. Ross suggested an MOU, right, correct. But we didn't request one, so they suggested it.
Yes,
maybe being the best way forward. And maybe it is, I don't know. So since then, I've not received anything direct from staff or from anyone with the Seaworm or that commission. But I was aware that it was an agenda item, and I have seen a draft MOU. My question is, what's your best understanding as it stands right now on the process that may lead to an MOU or not? On the process itself, where do we stand on that? What's being proposed? How does it work?
Well, as soon as we got the latest draft of the MOU from the Commission on Water Resource Management staff, we put it up on the website.
Right.
For the commissioners to review. It sets out the need for Commission on Water Resource Management and the LUC to exchange information on a more regular basis. It sets forth the topics that the that the Commission on Water Resource Management would be commenting on, and it sets forth the ways in which they may communicate with us, either by direct communication, or by oral communication, or in writing, and also as part of the regular requests for comments through the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. If you recall from the July meeting, one of the issues that Commission on Water Resource Management brought up is really what I would call an internal issue, and that is OPSD sends the information over to the Department of Land and Natural Resources. The Department of Land and Natural Resources then sends it to their Land Use Division. The Land Use Division, under its own letterhead, sends the information on to Commission on Water Resource Management staff, and as a result, it may not even get any attention by Commission on Water Resource Management. And that is the impetus for this MOU. I believe that the information that the Commission on Water Resource Management can provide us would be of assistance. I don't have any much more of an opinion on it than that.
Well, and you raise another point of interest to me, not concern, but interest, is that the intent is not to bypass OPSD on this matter. It was really looking for a way that OPSD, Seaworm, and LUC could get on the same page on the issues of interest in any particular docket that involved water. I mean,
that is correct. That is correct. I mean, this wasn't, you're exactly right. This was not an attempt to bypass OPSD. As I mentioned when I first started into this, I believe that this is an internal problem at DLNR that they're trying to fix, so to speak, so that there's more communication with us. They have more knowledge with regard to when we need the information, and they can get it to us more quickly. For lack of a better word, it's a way to cut through some of the bureaucratic slowdowns.
So what actually happened at the commission meeting, Seaworm meeting? Because my understanding, it was agendized for adoption and it didn't happen.
No, what happened was that some of the commissioners at the Commission on Water Resource Management had were concerned about some of the language, and that there still need to be some work on it. I made it clear that the Land Use Commission you commissioners had not had a chance to weigh in on it yet, and that we were waiting for them to send us something over. And as a result, the final motion was to allow the chair of the Commission on Water Resource Management the ability to work with the chair of the Land Use Commission to come up with a viable document, or a document that they both agreed to, and then bring it back to both commissions for adoption or approval or disapproval.
Or amendment.
Yeah, or amendment, or further amendment.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioners, Commissioner Carr-Smith, I saw your hand up. Is it still up?
It's not, but are we taking questions right now?
So I am taking, if you want to comment on what I've asked for, we're going to go to testimony, and then we'll have questions.
Right.
Great.
Okay,
But,
let me just make a quick comment if I can, please.
yeah, that's what I would invite at this time.
Okay.
Quick comment for clarification on what you remember and what you think's going on.
Sure. I would just say that I've watched the Seaworm meeting more times than I care to admit. And I recall that Chair Chang asked the executive officer to allow OPSD to weigh in on the MOU. So I would want to follow up and hear about how that went. But that's all I have for now.
So when you say the CWORM meeting, you don't mean the presentation, the meeting, our meeting in which they presented to us. You're talking about
No, the CWORM meeting.
Their
Where
committee
their meeting. Yeah, you can see it online, just like people are watching our meeting right now. And yeah, so I just watched the section on that agenda item just to get a little bit more clarity. And Chair Chang asked if OPSD had weighed in on this and asked Mr. Orndecker to make sure that they do. So that was just something that I was thinking of and wanted to mention while I thought of it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dan Ardenker again. This is kind of a step-by-step process, as is any contractual arrangement. And we fully intend to discuss this matter with OPSD, but we don't. I mean, I didn't want to go there until I knew what this commission wanted to do. So,
Okay.
we will be doing that.
So I want to clarify, this is not the MOU, draft MOU that you've posted and shared with this commission is not a matter for approval or adoption at today's meeting.
No, it is not. I mean, the furthest I think we could go with this today would be to authorize the chair, yourself, to continue discussions with the chair of the Commission on Water Resource Management with regard to the document.
Okay, so has the chair of the Commission of Water Resources requested that of us?
Well, that was what she was authorized to do. It's my understanding that that's what she was authorized to do at the Commission on Water Resource Management.
But I'm not authorized to talk with her yet.
No, this commission would have to authorize you to do that.
Okay, very good. So let's proceed, and now back, that's all perfectly clear. Let's proceed with the matter first by recognizing public testimony. So Mr. Derrickson, has there been any written testimony submitted on this matter?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, we received a written testimony by Ana Tuiasosopo, the Operating Engineers Local Union number 3. That's been put up on our website and distributed to the commissioners. This morning, we received written testimony from David Arakawa from Land Use Research Foundation this morning, and he is here today to present in person public testimony, I believe.
Okay. Thank you. So other than Mr. Arakawa, is there anybody else that would like to, is he the only one present for public testimony today?
He appears to be the only one here to present public testimony, and it does not appear to anyone online is attempting to provide public testimony.
Okay, can we is Mr. Arakawa available to go on the Zoom?
Yes, he is. He'll move up to the public testimony mic right now.
Is that him moving? I see it.
Correct.
Okay, so Mr. Arakawa, I'd like you to introduce yourself. I'd like you to give me your affiliation. I'll swear you in. And I'd also like you to clarify if your public testimony today will be consistent with the written testimony which you provided this morning, which I'm going to assume that others besides me have not had an opportunity to see.
Okay, thank you. My name is David Arakawa. I'm testifying on behalf of the Land Use Research Foundation of Hawaii. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, my testimony is somewhat consistent with the written testimony I submitted, but you know, I relied on the agenda, the language of the agenda. You know, in my prior life, I was corporation counsel, so the wording in the agenda is very important. If it's for approval, people are going to testify thinking it's up for approval. I'm also a member of the Hawaii Tourism Authority, so agendas are very important. At this point,
Let me swear you in,
th-
Mr. Arakawa.
Okay, thank you.
So you swear the testimony you're about to present will be the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please proceed. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, I'm thinking that this whole process is poho, meaning nothing's going to happen today. It's, you know, there's not going to be a vote, but notwithstanding that, there may be a vote. So I will testify. My testimony is in opposition to the proposed MOU for various reasons. And the main reason, one of the main reasons, is there's no staff report verifying the reasons or justification for the MOU. And we are happy to hear Officer Orendenker say that it looks like it's due to an internal problem at DLNR or CWORM. One department or division is not talking to another division or department. So there's nothing on the record, no facts on the record to justify the MOU or the failures to communicate within DLNR. There's no evidence of any CWORM failure to provide information or input to the LUC. And it is a very important, water is a very important matter for your consideration. As you noted, Land Use Research Foundation is composed of members, Kama'aina and new members who are stewards of the water in Hawaii and have been so for over hundred years. And we support the objectives of the Commission to preserve and protect the state's precious water resources. We believe it's unnecessary. The MOU is unnecessary because departments should be communicating with each other anyway. And the current EIS process, you mentioned Chapter 343, and the Land Use Commission District Boundary Review process, HRS 205, provides ample opportunities for that input. We believe that this MOU is another attempt at a power grab by Commission on Water Resource Management, like the governor's veto of House Bill 1088 in 2023, where it tried to get more authority over water emergencies and water shortages, and that was vetoed by the governor. And this commission also rejected in 2023 a couple of proposed rule changes, which would have required CWORM's authorization or approval before the commission could take action on a matter. And that is simply, certain things are within, Mr. Chair, certain things are within CWORM's kuleana, and it's great when they comment on it, but certain things are not within their kuleana. It's the LUC's kuleana, right? And so we believe that under the current process, that the LUC can get the best information possible from the CWORM. There's no need for a MOU to spell out specific things. We have specific comments on the terms of the MOU, but perhaps that could wait until if this thing moves forward. But I think either the DLNR director, CWORM chair, or one of the commissioners noted that the more detailed those quote topics unquote are, those are invitations for lawsuits. And so if you already have laws that encourage and sometimes require input from CWORM, best to use the existing laws to get that expertise before the commission, this commission, rather than create a whole new document that creates new obligations that could end up in court someday and could further, you mentioned this, Mr. Chair, it could further delay needed projects and it could cause litigation. So that's our 2 cents. We have a lot of other comments on the specifics of this, but we believe that the MOU would expand impermissibly and perhaps unconstitutionally expand the powers and duties of CWORM in relation to the LUC. And we're troubled that OPSD and what we heard earlier, OPSD and the boards of water supply and the LUC stakeholders, the petitioners, have not been consulted with respect to this proposed MOU. So there are a number of other items. I'll be open for questions, but if this matter proceeds further. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for your indulgence, and the commissioners. I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Arakawa.
Background. I've been appearing before the LUC before some people since 1983. So that's 40 years on land use matters. Thank you very much.
So thank you, and you're correct. We're not going to take up the matter of adoption of the MOU in any form today. So you can defer any considerations in that regard to future. But your comments about the necessary to have a MOU in the first place is well taken. So commissioners, any questions for this witness?
Chair, Commissioner Lee.
Yes, Commissioner Lee, please.
Mr. Arakawa, was it your understanding that there would be action and that's why you came to testify? Because when I look at it, it looks really clear that it's not a typo or anything. So it sounds like a lot of backpedaling and it doesn't seem very credible to me that there was just some misunderstanding. You know, it says it's right there and it goes into detail about authorizing our chairperson to enter into an MOU. So there's no presentation, no discussion. Was that your understanding that there would be a vote today on this that went through CWORM's approval first before it ever got to us?
Yes, that was my understanding from reviewing the materials from the CWORM meeting and the agenda. You know how the agenda was proposed or was filed. But you know what? There still might be an action taken by this commission. At HTA, things like this come before us and we have a motion. Sometimes we have a motion not to pursue it further. So there could be, based on the testimony or based on what's presented, a decision by this board, this commission, to say, this year, let's try to use the existing laws, the existing rules, the existing process to get the best information possible from CWORM and work with them on resolving CWORM and DLNR's internal issues rather than do a MOU, right? So that could be the vote today. And so that's why I'm kind of glad I came. You know, that might be a vote.
Okay, yeah, you brought up a point I hadn't thought of, which is that although it was mentioned that there would not be a MOU vote, but the fact that it is on the agenda means that anything is fair play, including a vote if there was enough people, or even any discussion on not doing an MOU or working on alternatives. Is that your understanding?
Yes, the agenda item reads presentation and action on memorandum of understanding, etc. And we have worked with the AGs at HTA. That phrase and action could mean approve or deny, right? Or table or put off, right? So there could be a decision by this commission to say, you know what, let's not do this right now. Let's not pursue it. Let's let DLNR work out its internal problems and see what happens over the next year.
Do you recall at the CWORM meeting whether there had been any presentations of the MOU to their board, or was it that the first time their board had seen it? Because that's how it sounds like, that it was just brought up and then up for a vote at their meeting this couple weeks ago. Is that correct?
You know, I was not present at that CWORM meeting, so I hesitate to give that, but it kind of looked like the board members were not familiar with the basis and the specific terms. There were questions. In fact, one of the CWORM commissioners asked for deletion of in-stream uses, and that I understand that portion was deleted from the draft that the LUC provided. But yeah, there was a number of comments that could be interpreted like they were not familiar with the document or the issues.
Thank you, Chair.
Commissioners, anything further for this witness? Thank you, Mr. Arakawa. So the chair has been made aware that there may be representatives from Seaworm in attendance at the meeting. Let me just informally ask if that is correct, and if they are they willing to provide the commission some additional information, testimony as to the genesis of this memorandum and why it was put forth to the Seaworm Commission. So, Mr. Derrickson, can you confirm if they're there and if they're willing to entertain?
Yeah, we're gonna check the participant list.
Scott, I believe Ms. Roth is already connected to the Zoom meeting.
I do see Ms. Roth.
Aloha, can you hear me?
Ms. Roth, thank you. Are you willing to provide additional background and perspective for this commission?
Yes, absolutely. My camera is on. I don't know if you can see me, but I think you can hear me.
I cannot see you, but I can hear you. You say you cannot get your video on?
It's on. Not sure how you can view me, but it is on. I don't see an option for on or off on this platform. Oh, here, I think they're going to send me an invite.
There you are.
Morning.
So let me ask you to identify yourself and your affiliation for the record, then I'll swear you in again.
Sure. Katie Roth. I am the Planning Program Manager with the Commission on Water Resource Management.
And do you swear the testimony today will be the truth?
I do.
Well, thank you, and thanks for coming forward again. So please proceed.
Thank you. Yeah, I wasn't planning to provide testimony, but here to answer questions that you may have. I've been listening to the conversation, and I did want to make some clarifying points regarding the last statement about whether or not our commissioners had reviewed the MOU prior to that August 20th Water Commission meeting. They had not. That's pretty normal and standard for how we operate meetings. We don't, provide briefings in most cases prior to agendized items coming before our Water Commission. We've done MOUs with other agencies, as you mentioned, the PUC, so this was not thought to be something that would be out of the norm. We definitely did receive more comments and some concerns, more so than when we anticipated, and we did our best to try to alleviate those questions and concerns, which again is why the commission ultimately voted to move forward with the MOU pending discussion from this commission. Some of the other things that I want to mention, there's been a lot of discussion about the purpose and intent of this MOU. We've talked about how there's internal processes within the Department of Land and Natural Resources that could be improved upon, which definitely is a component of this MOU. But I would say that it's not the only component. There's other ways that we could better collaborate and communicate and be a bit more proactive in information sharing outside of official doc reviews for items that come before your commission. That included, and it's detailed in the MOU, when we designate new areas as ground or surface water management, issues related to drought, climate change, where we're seeing fluctuations in water availability, particularly declines in water resources, which may be of importance to this commission as you vote on whether or not to approve new developments. Sustainable yield updates. That's something that we're in the process of considering whether or not to update. Well, we're going to be updating our sustainable yields for aquifers statewide, but we're having an internal conversation right now on how we will go about doing that. We have new data from the USGS, new recharge numbers and data based on climate change predictions and models. So things like that are not officially part of a formal review process as doc reviews go, but are things that we feel are important for us to communicate on, to be more proactive in our engagement, given the nexus between land use planning and water resource management. Maybe I'll also just mention that, this MOU is not intended to be legally binding in any way. It states that clearly in the text, as well as, it's not meant to be inconsistent with any existing applicable laws, policies, administrative rules. I know the gentleman from LURF had some specific concerns about the legality and repercussions of this MOU. I would maybe just ask that you, consult with your deputy attorneys on the correctness of those statements, which again, I just would probably prefer to have a conversation about whether or not those are actually true. Thank you. That's all. Happy to answer any more questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Roth. So questions, Commissioner, is that you, Miles? Please proceed. Mr. Miyasato.
Thank you, Chair. Before my question, just a technical. Do you need to ask Ms. Roth if there's anyone in the room? Adult?
I think that's only for commissioners.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Roth, thank you for being present. I guess, I felt that our chair had extended a gracious invitation after your presentation for your participation at the LUC. What's the difference between the MOU and that gracious invitation? Can't you just attend anyway? I mean, you're open to attend and give comment.
Are you referring to attendance at future LUC meetings?
Yes, at the end of your presentation, our chair had extended an invitation for you to be recognized at our meetings already. Why the MOU? What's the difference here?
Well, when it comes to document reviews and our attendance at meetings where action items may come before your commission, I think it would behoove both of us to have conversations ahead of those meetings and have, a conversation about comments we may have prior to sitting in at a meeting and offer official testimony. It's kind of a little potentially too late at that point, and I think we want to make sure that we both have an understanding about the implications of approvals on both ends prior to actually sitting in on an agendized meeting.
So you would want a meeting with the commissioners privately?
Not privately, no. This would be again as part of, in the example of a document review that come before us that are officially routed through OPSD, through our Department of Land and Natural Resources. We're just basically asking that in addition to that formal process of document routing, we could be notified via email or a phone call, just say, hey, please look out for this document. We think it's important for these reasons. We really want to get your feedback and comment on it. That's not currently happening. And in some cases, we may not even be receiving the documents for review. So we just want to make sure that we are in communication, and yes, direct communication, but that doesn't necessarily mean a meeting internally behind closed doors.
Okay, I'm a little confused. That kind of went in a circle, so. Okay, I'll yield now for Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Carr-Smith.
So thank you, Ms. Roth. So why can't you just do that anyway? Why do you need an MOU to make you feel comfortable with talking to the LUC staff about a docket?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's something that our commissioners also raised. We feel that the purpose of an MOU is really to institutionalize that level of collaboration and communication. It provides more specific details about ways that we could collaborate and communicate better. As staff moves on from positions, we just want to have something on the record so future staff would know that this agreement is in place. And that's something that, again, we've done with other agencies.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Yamane.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wong. Question. Oh, so it sounds like this MOU you're talking about adding better communications is within staff, like staff to staff. How does the commissioners know about those communications except to ask you to call you in front of a meeting and agendize that? Within the framework of this MOU, how does that handle that?
Sure. Well, any comments that we provide, which again would be in writing, would be provided as part of, I think, the submittal or agendized action item that staff presents. Maybe I would defer to Dan to comment a little bit more about how this would work internally in terms of communicating our comments to commissioners themselves.
Where's Dan?
Dan Ortega, we lost him. So Ms. Roth, just let me follow up on that question that Commissioner Yamane put forth and go backwards a little bit into the prior questions. So what we're really trying to do is to make sure that we have the benefit of your input on petitions that come before the Land Use Commission for which there are relevant water issues. The worst case scenario is we don't hear from you at all. And that's what has occurred in the recent past on some cases. So we're trying, so my invitation to you and to OPSD was, especially in this time where water issues are more critical than ever in my memory, on a petition by petition basis, this commission wants to hear from you. So for example, and this is purely hypothetical, if we have a petition before us for a new development and we hear testimony from a consultant of the petitioner that the sustainable yield is more than enough and there's no water issues here. If that's the only information we have, I don't feel comfortable making a decision without OPSD and CWORM weighing in to either confirm that or to disagree with that or to clarify upon top of that. And if we're not hearing from you because there are communication problems, then the purpose of my invitation was, let's solve those communication problems so that we hear from you when we need to hear from you. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, yes. And that definitely is a component of what this MOU is intending to do.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Carr-Smith.
So isn't the process already in place for OPSD to notify DLNR through the land division to you? You get that, right? And so isn't it your, Juliana, to respond and if appropriate, bring matters to our attention or be at our meeting to testify or?
Yes, absolutely. I think the issue has been that we're not always getting those memos from our land division.
So isn't that something you need to work out with the land division?
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is something that we're working on internally as well. And again, this MOU is just intended to try to add an additional layer of assurance that we are understanding and aware of issues before the LUC.
So the chair would like to turn attention to OPSD that is present. This is a three-party discussion. So Ms. Kato and Ms. Spillane, Katia, do you have comment on this matter as far as two things? One, the existing process and deficiencies within it, if any, or are we just dropping the ball? And secondly, any comment of whether you think an MOU such as this would help address those issues that do exist?
Katia, Allison Kato, Katia Balasian, I would like to say a word on this. Thank you.
You still
Katia Balasiano, Planning Program Manager at OPSD. In regards to the processes, I believe Commissioner Carr-Smith characterized, excuse me, our current processes correctly. We receive materials that are going to be put on an agenda from the LUC staff. We forward materials to the agencies that are called out in the petition or who may have an interest in the matter. We draw attention to the relevant topics or, let's say, conditions within the docket to the various agencies. We might
ask a specific question or two, depending on the matter or our understanding of the matter, so that we have a little back and forth conversation with the agencies. And then we ask for their comments in writing. We provide a timeline for the responses. If we don't get a response within that time frame, we usually try a second time and sometimes a third time to get a response. And then we report to the LUC what we've heard and whether we've heard anything. And our understanding is that, you know, for certain agencies, it travels through sometimes a circuitous route to get to the various entities that we wish to hear from, but we, you know, respect the internal processes that agencies use to generate comments. We believe that those internal routing processes are intended to keep managers aware of policy decisions and staff workloads. We understand that it's for record keeping and consistency of requests and responses. It helps managers assess staff performance and knowledge, and it confirms that responses are correct and complete when you know, it passes through this process, and perhaps different people have to review something before it gets formally to the OPSD. And then as we collect information from the various agencies, because we're the ones who represent the state's position, sometimes we need to work with the agencies to reconcile different perspectives, but we do that, and everything that we find, we send along to the LUC as part of our testimony. So that is the process that's used. And whether this MOU would help, we've not been party to the conversations pertaining to this MOU. So you know, perhaps those conversations can go on, but we're under the impression that, you know, there are no, as Ms. Roth says, there are no new statutory obligations associated with this MOU. I guess we'd be concerned that if, you know, CWORM shares preliminary information with LUC staff, and then it's later revised when it comes up through standard DLNR channels to OPSD, that, you know, there may be conflicting information out there. We, you know, be a little concerned about that, but we trust that CWORM, DLNR, LUC staff would, you know, bring us into those conversations in a timely manner so that we can, you know, be party to it and you know, do our job before the LUC in representing the state's interests.
So thank you. So you described the first part of your response was the process, and you spoke to that in generic terms of how it works for all agencies. But our issue here today is that this particular group, CWORM, is on record that they're not getting, that process is broken in some cases. It's going to some intermediary desk or agency, land division, I think I heard, and it may or may not reach CWORM, and so they're not even given the opportunity to weigh in. So can you comment on what assurances, because what we were asking for at the end of the presentation that CWORM presented to us is the three parties, LUC, OPSD, and CWORM, working together to make sure that matters of interest, specifically water issues on a particular petition, that CWORM was fully aware and given the opportunity to weigh in through the process back through OPSD through us, and it wasn't working. So what is the process specifically for how you get information to CWORM? Where does it go? Because you're not going to them directly. We're hearing that.
because DLNR has many different divisions, and so we have been instructed by by DLNR's chair to send things to DLNR, and then as Ms. Roth suggested, it goes to the land division, and then it goes to another, 6, 7 different entities for their comments. So, unless DLNR tells OPSD that they would like to have, the correspondence sent to them directly, we are abiding by what we've, heard from DLNR.
So
leadership.
so now let's tie it to a hypothetical MOU. So if an MOU hypothetically was agreed to between the chair of the Board of Land and Natural Resources and the chair of the LUC, that such inquiries would be sent by you directly to CWRM if they pertain to certain matters, and not through the legacy network at DLNR, that is something you could do, but you don't have that guidance presently. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're not sure that an MOU is necessary for that. We have regularly been told by the various agencies if there is a point person who should be receiving our requests, and occasionally that point person changes as, staff changes. However, we would be happy to, work something out with the chair to, see if there was a different routing system that could be used. I'm not sure that we would need an MOU to confirm that with every single agency.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well. Commissioners, anything further for either CWRM or OPSD? Mr. Carsmith. Let me go Carsmith and I'll go Commissioner.
Sorry. Was just wondering, is there any reason why we can't lengthen the time frame available for these agencies to respond?
Depends on the timing for petitions. Mr. Orendaker, can you speak to the time available for review by OPSD, CWRM, and the other agencies? Mr. Orendaker, you look like you're going in circles there. What's going on? There we go. You're on mute, Mr. Orendaker.
In terms of timeframes, some of the timeframes may be, like I say, as mentioned before, legally prescribed, like 201H projects or special permits. But generally, there's 60 to 90 days, 60 days at least for other agencies and OPSD to provide us with comments. And those are the timeframes that we usually work with. We make it clear that we need that all the information assembled and presented to us by both the petitioner, the county, and by OPSD 2 weeks before the hearing starts, so that we can formulate a staff report with the information. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, that's helpful. I mean, that seems like a fair amount of time. So I was just trying to ascertain whether timing is a big issue, or it's more of a routing process, or it's more that maybe certain agencies are too busy to respond, so they don't respond. I don't think, it sounds to me like OPSD does what their process requires them to do. And if people don't respond, that's their problem, not really OPSD's or LUC's, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with that.
So that means you agree. You don't disagree means you agree. Got it.
There are, I mean, we went through this with what do you call it? Historic preservation a while back over at BLNR as well. There are times when the internal processes of the various agencies just wind their way too slowly and we don't get information. I think you have to go back and look at why this whole thing evolved, and that was because there was some criticism in a couple of periodicals about the fact that the Land Use Commission didn't seem to be able to understand and have all the information in front of it with regard to water, which is why we asked CWRM to make the presentation. And as the chair stated earlier, water is a very important topic. It's part of our public trust doctrine obligations. And that was why we had CWRM come and talk to us to explain to the commissioners how their processes worked. There are a number of ways we could go about improving the situation, and an MOU is just one way to do it. I think that it's up to this commission on how they want to move forward with regard to this particular issue.
So, Mr. Orendaker, I have a question. So, if staff receives a petition, do you send that petition without specific reference to OPSD for comment, and they decide what aspects to look into in more detail with their own processes, or does our staff, our LUC staff, look at that petition and say, oh, this one might have some particular water issues, and would you highlight that to LUC, to the OPSD staff, so that they could know up front that the LUC staff wants them to weigh in specifically on that matter?
The answer to that is yes and yes. I mean, we do send it directly, as a matter of course, to OPSD without any comment on it. However, as time approaches, I mean, remember, a lot of times these petitions are, since we do contested case hearings, are preliminary filings. And as the time approaches for the hearing and we get more information from the petitioners and from the county and from OPSD, different issues arise. And so then we start asking for OPSD for information with regard to certain things. Sometimes we don't even see it until the hearing itself, but we make an effort to try and get whatever information we can and make OPSD aware of what topics are going to be of concern for the commission.
Okay. Is that
Commissioner Lee?
Yeah, I was going there. I want to make sure Commissioner Carr-Smith was good. Yeah, and before I go to you, Commissioner Lee, do you have your hand up, Ms. Roth?
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to quickly add, in terms of the doc review routing process, I just wanted to clarify that CWRM, we're actually administratively attached to DLNR, so we're not an official division, which may play into some of the routing issues we've experienced. I'll also add that, to your point, Chair Giovanni, when we do receive those requests for comments, as far as I know, it is not explicit, like in bold highlighted letters, this is a particular interest to CWRM, we need to know X, Y, and Z about water. That is not part of what's provided to us. So it's really up to staff to review those documents, take a hard look, which we, obviously want to and should be doing. But I just want to caveat that with the fact that we obviously are a very underfunded and understaffed agency and responsible for a tremendous amount of work regarding water resource management. So it is important for us to kind of be flagged with, hey, pay attention to this one in particular, which again is part of the intent of this MOU for LUC staff to be able to flag that for us, or OPSD, whoever, it makes more sense to be the communicator of that information.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Roth. Let me also add that in addition to particular issues to be flagged, I'm also interested in what you offered up in terms of new information that might be forthcoming from your commission, from your work of your commission, that would be a relevant generic interest to LUC as it proceeds with its work. So also interested in hearing from you on a more regular basis on that. So Commissioner Lee, your turn.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I also didn't recall that there was any kind of a tacit invitation for an MOU at this. And so it sounds to me like this is quite a stretch. In fact, if there's an MOU, it should be between CWORM and Land Division, not between LUC. I mean, this whole process where it goes to OPSD first, and then it goes down. I mean, that was established by legislative and administrative rule procedures. You know, and an MOU circumvents that. The authority, the deliberation, the chain of custody and command. You know, I think it's a risk to do an MOU because even though at the CWOR meeting they say, oh, well, it doesn't change anything. It's nothing we can't do anyway. I mean, just pick up the phone. It sounds like someone's not doing their job if these important decisions aren't being properly routed or being communicated. And if we have an MOU, that adds additional liability, I feel, to this thing. There's already processes in place. An MOU can make us run afoul of this established authority and procedures. And it brings up many of the same concerns that I remember from Cal Chipchase's testimony on the proposed administrative rules from last year. So as I referenced that, I asked myself, whatever happened to those administrative rules when they were proposed? And I recall you as chair asking the executive officer to contact the various county planning departments for comments and input on how the process can be improved. Has that ever been done? I don't think so. So why aren't we working on things like that to improve the process instead of an MOU exposes us that's unnecessary, and perhaps we're not even the right party to this MOU. It should be, if the problem is in the internal routing, then that's not our problem. So I would be very much against an MOU. I even think about the Supreme Court's Chevron decision on decisions that are made by agencies without deliberation and rulemaking, without authority, legislative authority or statutory authority. And Dawn Chang, the chair of the LNR, used to be an LUC member. So I think she's well aware of the processes necessary. So I would be very skeptical about skipping that. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. Anybody else further?
Mr. Chair, if I may, just to clarify.
Go ahead, Commissioner Ordecker, then I'll call on Commissioner Oʻahu.
I'm sorry, Chair. I just wanted to clarify that we did make a lot of effort to discuss processes and the need for the rule changes with the various county agencies. We had a couple of meetings on that. So that was not, that was done. I mean, it's not like staff ignored that. But once again, as I've said, this commission has to decide how it wants to move forward with regard to this particular.
Fair enough. Commissioner Oʻahu.
Aloha. I just wanted to add a few things. And one is I'm at an outside park that I'm about to lose service. It's FYI. I got no plug-in. But I wanted to share my mana'o just in case my battery runs out. And so I know a few meetings ago, we were asking for more transparency. And as someone brought up, maybe we was lacking some information to make the proper decisions in order to guide us to make the best possible vote. I guess with the best information that we could have. That's one I think is lacking here. I think two, to authorize the chairperson to enter an MOU and delegate to the chairperson to finalize the MOU and make non-substantial edits appropriate. I couldn't support that. And the reason is I believe the body has the power, not just the chair. I think we run on 9 people and everyone's different. To authorize any one person for that one matter could be conflicting to what the board feels as a whole. And to add to that, I've not voted. I never had an opportunity to vote for the chair. Not saying I wouldn't vote for you, Dan, but it was never given to me. That opportunity was never given. And that's such difference with this commission than other commissions. On other commissions, what I noticed, to have movements, say like on MOU or any type of change, it had to be done internally, where the body would come up with a TIG, and the TIG will come up with an MOU to, or not only an MOU, the body would come up with the movement necessary to see change needed within our body. Not staff creating rules or creating MOUs, talking to other staff to create more rules and MOU. And the commission, the body, responds to what the staff did. That is new to me too. What's missing also in this MOU is not just the body of the commission, it is the county that's missing too. And again, the plaintiffs who apply for this process. In order to get buy-in from myself and others, I think we need way more transparency than what is seen here, from me anyway. When I found out that this was on C-Worm, and I watched a little bit, guys, I love my life. I try to just do my job and that's it. I heard Dan say, or the staff created the LUC. That's what I heard from Daniel. And I don't know what staff, could have been C-Worm, could have been LUC, but I think it should have been brought up to us. We should have had the ability to steer or navigate the process before we went to C-Worm. This is how I feel. I feel we was left out of dark. And again, maybe again and again. I start pointing fingers. When you hear the terms additional layers, when you hear the terms lack of a better word to explain something, and for me to vote on a process that is still unclear, I have to vote no in its entirety. Because I believe from the start, it hasn't had the transparency and the belief for me to believe in something that might help. We already talked about, and I agree with what you said, Chair Giovanni. We gotta respect all the issues, the EA and the EIS, 100%, 100%. But we are going to respect the plaintiffs and the county and the commission to require something to do this might potentially add on additional layer. We already know we have layers upon layers. Land Use Commission, just to let you guys know, not Land Use Commission, land use laws in the state of Hawaii is ranked last place. We are third more than any other place. So when I hear we creating new to get streamlined, I've never seen one worked out in a favor of a streamlining, ever. In my 20 years in dealing with government, not once. So this is old news. It sounds like bad news. It's not transparent. I'm running out of time. If I had the opportunity, I would vote no. Just letting you guys, but if you wanted to create one, we'll create a TIG and take it through the process. Because I'm into solving certain things that need to be solved, but I also understand we need staff like Dan with the experience to help us create that, and we was left out of this process. Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Carsmith.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion based on presentation by the staff, the testimony heard, and the subsequent record. I'd make a motion to deny the memorandum of understanding between C-Worm and the LUC, and to not authorize the chairperson to enter into this or any other similar written agreement between the two agencies, and to not delegate the chairperson to finalize this MOU. This motion essentially makes the document null and void.
Commissioner Lee, I second.
Slow down, everybody.
No,
I'm not slowing you down. I didn't call on us for a second yet. That's where I'm slowing down. So I just want to clarify your motion. The chair will entertain that motion. I think it's a legitimate motion. Let me ask Attorney General Ms. Steed, do you see any form or substance issues with the motion that's been made?
Motion is fine.
Thank you. Do I have a second to the motion?
Commissioner Lee, I will second that motion.
Thank you. So Commissioner Carsmith, you want to speak to your motion?
Sure. I feel the MOU is unnecessary. It sets an unnecessary precedent. I think people can just talk to each other. They don't have to limit the topics either, as identified. I don't think that's a good idea. Why limit your topics?
So let me
Yeah,
clarify.
I just think, oh,
Let me clarify, if I may, Commissioner Carr-Smith, because I think you're kind of doing two things at once. Um,
I'm speaking to why I made the motion.
Let me ask my question. Let me ask my question of you, and you could clarify. So, on the one hand, your motion says that you want to deny the specific MOU that was shared with this commission and presented to this commission.
That's correct.
And the second part is you want to not allow any further work to be done, these are my words, not yours, by the chair or staff for the furtherance of a MOU. Is that correct?
That's correct. Without LUC being
Yes.
first.
So let me
informed.
ask, if you don't mind, would you be amenable to taking your motion that I view to be in two parts and to make a separate motion for each? So the first part would be
Not sure why that's necessary, but
well, in my mind, it's an up and down vote to accept or deny the draft MOU as presented and on the record. That's pretty simple. We can dispose of that, right?
mhm.
The second part is whether is in pursuit of a workable solution. If I interpret your motion correctly, as you stated it, you don't even want us to work on it or anything in that direction. You think it's unnecessary.
I'm responding to the agenda item, which
Yeah.
says authorize the chairperson to enter into the MOU and to delegate the chairperson to finalize. And those are the two things that I mentioned in my motion.
Okay, so you want to deny both of those in one swoop.
Yes.
Fine, I will accept that. And Commissioner Lee, you agreed, that's your understanding, and you second that motion?
Chair, I think it's just a simple thing, so there's no reason to separate it. And I'll have some comments, short comments for it when the time is appropriate.
Very well. Commissioner Carr-Smith, you want to speak further?
No, well, I was on my way to talking. I think I'm good. Thank
Okay,
you.
Mr. Lee, your turn.
Chair, I'll go back to the words of the famous samurai philosopher Musashi Miyamoto. Do nothing which is of no use. And that's what I think this MOU is. And in fact, it creates problems, not only not having any use. So I'm in strong support of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners. Commissioner Kahele. You're on mute. Commissioner Kahele, you're on mute.
Here, I had a question, but I'm just going to pass on my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair,
Who's that?
Commissioner Yamani.
Commissioner Yamani.
Hi, thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm inclined to support this motion. Just a couple comments. I do appreciate Serum's presentation to us back then. I found it very informational and very useful. And I think that's the impetus for their attempt with this MOU. Obviously, there are other rationales on why this MOU doesn't work. But I did appreciate that. And I think further updates from them, whether it's related to project or just in general, I thought was very helpful for me as a commissioner to understand that. Secondly, I agree that I don't think this MOU is necessary this time, but just denying this MOU doesn't really help me gain better understanding on the water issues. And some of what Commissioner Oʻahu said, I think we should ask our staff for a solution on, as commissioners, how we can be best informed on any specific water issues, sea worms, or whatever that is. But I really hate to let this, this opportunity go to wayside, that, because I found that information very informative. So, just like I said, I'll support the motion, but I really don't want this to go to waste. I'm not talking with CRM, whether we invite them quarterly, whether our own staff comes up with a way to work with them, and not just work with them within staff, but somehow get that information to the commissioners, and come up with some kind of solution that doesn't have to be in an MOU. It's just something that as commissioners, we want to know about and see. So with that being said, I would support this motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, anybody else? So I'm going to support this motion, but I want to make a couple of comments. I think that we have unearthed a real issue of communication within government. And I commend Seaworm and Ms. Roth and her staff for trying to resolve it, whether it be through an MOU or raising the issue explicitly. Let me also counsel OPSD, who will be coming to make a presentation before the LUC of its own on the inner workings of its staff and its department in support of land use matters. Let me very strongly encourage OPSD to tell this commission when it comes before us how this issue has been addressed. The issue I'm speaking of is there are hypothetically a petition will be coming on land use before this land use commission. And there are water issues that are flagged, and I'm looking at our own staff to flag those issues. But I want to make sure if we flag a water issue by our staff, it doesn't get lost in the bureaucracy of the state someplace. It makes its way to Seaworm, and we give an adequate amount of time so we can have the benefit of their feedback and input prior to any decision-making and consideration by LUC. That's the problem we want to solve. I don't think an MOU will necessarily solve it. I will be supporting the motion. Mr. Orendaker, take a roll call, please.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm having technical difficulties. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion is to deny the MOU as presented on the record and to render the MOU null and void, and not pursue any further completion of the MOU. Commissioner Carr-Smith.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Lee. Commissioner Yamane.
Aye.
Commissioner Oʻahu.
Aye.
Commissioner Miyazaki.
Aye.
Commissioner Kamakeo, hello.
Aye.
Commissioner Kahele.
Aye.
Commissioner.
Aye.
Chair Giovanni.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Let me proceed to the next order of business is a meal request, as our October 9th and 10th meetings will be held at the airport with limited access to restaurants, and the commission intends to work through lunch. I would like to request staff to arrange lunch to be provided to the commissioners and staff to facilitate that meeting on October 9th and 10th. Please acknowledge that by staff.
Yes, staff acknowledges that.
Thank you
Thank you,
very much.
Mr. Chair. We will make sure.
Okay, commissioners,
Yeah.
any, who is that?
Sorry. When we were going through the calendar, I thought we were only going to be at the airport on the 10th. Is it the 9th and the 10th?
I don't know, I'm reading from the script. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay,
I
I'll
also
just
heard
watch
that-
the calendar.
Well, I
Thank you.
also heard that we have nothing on the 9th too, so I have it only on the 10th on Honolulu, so.
The 10th, Mr. Chair, but the request will be valid for the 10th.
Okay, so the clarification of the meal request is the 10th only.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further business, commissioners, for today? Hearing none, I consider this meeting to be concluded and it is adjourned. Thank you very much for your time this morning and welcome to the first day of football.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
See you
Okay,
guys on
bye.
the Big Island.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.